Hello again, everybody. This is Dan Clouser, and welcome back to the Journey of My Mother's Son podcast. And I'm joined with Katharine Giovanni, who's an award-winning best-selling author, and really looking forward to this conversation. It's a very interesting topic. Katharine, just thanks a lot for joining me today.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Like I said, looking forward to the conversation. Before we get started, just introduce yourself in your own words. Who is Katharine today?
I am the author of about 12 books at last count. I am a forgiveness coach and an intuitive advisor. That's the short version.
I love it.
The
I love it.
longer version involves the independent concierge industry. I retired from them in 2020, but the short version is I'm an advisor and forgiveness coach.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, and I said, very interesting topic, forgiveness. And one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on the show is just to really kind of dig into that. And I think one of the things a lot of people misconception of forgiveness is people think that forgiveness is about the person you're forgiving, where it really truly is about you getting over it and being able to move on. So just kind of dive in a little bit, like right away here, as to, you know, that concept of people thinking forgiveness is for the person you're forgiving. But like I said, it's truly for yourself more so.
Well, forgiveness is selfish. You do it for you. You don't do it for them. And when we were kids in kindergarten, something would happen, and the teacher or the parent would come over to you and say, "Oh, you have to go say you're sorry," and then you go off and play. So they were implying that when you forgive somebody, it means they were correct. It means everything's okay. And that's actually not true.
Yeah.
For just because I forgive you, first of all, doesn't mean I want a relationship with you. I probably don't.
Yeah.
Just because I forgive you doesn't mean I'm giving you a pass all of a sudden. It doesn't mean I'm finally giving in and you were okay, you were right all along. Forgiveness simply means I want you out of my head. That's it. It has no effect on the other person. But everybody watching or listening to this broadcast right now on a 10 scale, with 10 being unforgivable dumpster fire and one being the easiest person in the world to forgive, y'all are thinking of your number 10s. Every single one of you.
No
You're
doubt.
thinking of the one person that hurt you the most, and you don't want to forgive that person because it was horrible. It was unforgivable. And that's fair. In my world, you don't have to forgive the unforgivable. Why? Because there's a lot of people, places, and things, and I did say places and things, stay with me, that you can forgive before you even get to that person. We've saved that person for last. But it doesn't mean they were right. In fact, they're probably living their life not giving you a second thought. But you're torturing yourself.
Yeah.
So forgiveness is selfish. You do it for you. And it's not like I've been sober for 35 years, 35 years, something like that. And when you go into therapy, you go to AA and you go to therapy and you go to these programs and you have to make amends and you have to reach out to people. Okay, your girl here was painfully shy. And they now call me an extroverted introvert, which means I can turn it on and off when I have to.
I can relate.
Yeah, and so when I back in those days, calling up somebody on the phone who was probably mad at me left me stone cold. Didn't want to do it. Didn't do it. So in my world, not only is forgiveness selfish, but it's really personal. And you don't have to reach out and call anybody at all. You do it for you. And that being said, you can also forgive dead people because where they are or are not doesn't matter a lick. You're doing it for you. They're living in your head.
Yeah.
Rent free. Time to evict.
Yeah. Yeah, because it is true. I mean, when something like that happens, you know, you end up reliving that trauma over
Over
and
and
over
over
and
and over
over.
again.
And, you know, you got the old terminology of forgive and forget. And I think
Mm,
the forget part is the part that's so much tougher than the forgive part because you can vocally say, okay, I forgive this person, but you don't forget about it. It's still playing in your head. So how do you get to that point where, they're out of your head, where you are forgetting about it?
okay. I'm from New York City and I'm not forgetting anything. I don't know who coined the term forgive and forget. I really don't, but it's not true. I really don't know one person who can forget. There might be a unicorn happy person on the planet someplace that can forget things, but I'm not the one who's going to do that. What I can promise you is everybody says you have to forgive. Nobody teaches you how. I'm teaching the how with a step-by-step system that I'm happy to share in this broadcast. And the forget part, you're not going to forget. But what I can promise you is my system will remove the emotional charge. So when you see that name on Facebook or you run into them in a party, you're not going to care. You're not going to think good thoughts. You're not going to think bad thoughts. You're literally not going to care. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for neutrality. So when you see that name, you're not going to want to shoot daggers at the person. You're not
Yeah.
going to care. When you see that bully on Facebook, everybody has done this, and you see the bully broke their leg or something like that, and there's somebody who bullied you either currently or back in your past, every 10 out of 10 people are saying, well, good for them. They probably deserved that. Karma, we are told. And, don't send me nasty emails. You all do it. Everybody does that kind of thing. So my system will allow you to go on Facebook and see that post and you won't care. You'll probably just click right away. You can go to your family Christmas party and see all the people that you're mad at and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking to get them out of your head so you can live life again.
Yeah.
See, you're not living life. Let me give you an example. For everybody who's listening to this broadcast, hop over to Dan's YouTube channel and watch this. For the listeners, I'm holding a coffee cup off to the side. It's an opaque coffee cup that I can't see. So when I first get angry, I can hold this off to the side. Look, you and I can have a conversation. My body language is open, right? We can chat. I can do my job. I can go out to dinner. I can manage my anger. Oh no, Dan, I'm not angry. It's manageable, I will tell you, because it is. But the longer I hold on to this darn thing, the harder it's going to be to manage because it's going to start to hurt and it's going to start to cause me pain. And I'm going to be putting more anger and resentment in the glass because we're all humans and humans irritate other humans. So at some point, I'm going to need both hands to hold up the glass. Now I'm still able to hold it off to the side, but it's starting to filter into my conversations a little bit because it's starting to hurt. So it's kind of starting to get into the way of me living my life. And if I continue to hold on to it, now I'm holding the cup in front of my face. I can't see you at all. It's completely interfering with my life. It's all I can talk about. I'm losing friends because who wants to be with me? I'm negative all the time, and all I'm doing is talking about this story. Even if I spin it funny and make people laugh, I'm still talking about it. So using the system that I've developed will allow you to not only put it off to the side, but put it down. So now with now look at my body language. Now I can see that money making opportunity that I couldn't see before because I was looking through at my anger. I could see my dream relationship. I could see my brand new home. Why couldn't I see it before? Because I was so focused on the anger, it was interfering with my life. And the person you came to this planet to be, you can now be. You can find the reason you were meant to be here all along because your anger is gone and now you are paying attention.
I love it. Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. So, how did you get started in this line of work?
Well, it's kind of to quote some song lyrics, it's been a long, strange trip. There's a lot of water under my bridge. When I was in the eighth grade, I was living in New York City and I was getting horribly bullied in school. And both of my parents were alcoholics, going through a horrible, nasty divorce. And because of all the stress that was being hosted on me, I tried to commit suicide, was talked out of it. And I kind of spent the next 10 decade being one of those teenagers. You know who I'm talking about. They're angry, they're sick all the time, they have maybe one or two friends, they are draped in black. Of course, I lived in New York and we were all draped in black, so I'm not even sure I should be saying that, but it was what it was. They still dress all in black in New York. But when I was in my late 20s, my mother fell down a flight of stairs, broke her hip, and ended up in the hospital. And even my mother couldn't get a gin and tonic in the hospital. So we sent her to rehab and she dried out and she became my best friend. We were closer than sisters. And we spent 3 really beautiful years with each other, being best friends and sharing everything. And then she died of breast cancer. And I kind of went into this big black fog and I thought, if I don't change my life, I'm going to die like she did. So I cleaned up my act, um, got rid of all my own personal demons, eventually met my husband of 33 years. And along the way, I started to forgive people. But nobody teaches you how to forgive. They just say to do it. It's like,
Right.
okay, well, what if I don't want to? Now I have a problem. But I did it anyways, and I kind of paid lip service to it. And that's kind of how the party started. I'm a stage 3 breast cancer survivor of 12 years, and I even forgave cancer and chemo because anger is toxic and it'll ruin your life. So the special sauce to the whole system is I get asked all the time, well, Catherine, I have forgiven them. You have. You did a great job, but it didn't stick, did it? You're still mad. You see them at a party and everything comes right back and you did the work. Why am I still having these thoughts when I see this person? Because you didn't forgive the energy. Einstein proved that energy is neither created nor destroyed. It just transforms from one thing into another. Science proved that. And science has also proved that we have an energy field around our bodies. In fact, everything has an energy field, including this cup. Everything has an energy field around it. And when you get angry, everybody thinks it leaves your mouth and dissipates into the universe. It does not. It hangs around your energy field, which is why, hence the cup again, that's why you're kind of going through life through a haze of anger because the anger is kind of clouded up your energy field and you literally can't see through it. And what forgiveness does is it transforms the energy from that dark anger energy to a light-filled one. And that's the piece that everybody doesn't hear.
Yeah. Yeah. And just talk a little bit about what, holding on to that anger does to you, just your health in general. Because I think that's something that a lot of people don't understand is how much negative energy affects, you know, not just your mental health, but your physical health and everything else. So if you can dig into that a little bit, I'd love to hear it.
I love this question. There was a study done. I love this question. There was a study done by a Japanese scientist, and it's called the Japanese Water Study. And you can Google it. It's right online. It's got a guy named, I can never remember his name. I don't know why. I have a block against it. It's something like Masumoto or something like that, but it's an easy thing to find. What he did, and it's a big study, but I'll simplify it, took several containers of water. One container of water, he spoke beautiful, loving words to. It's all he did was talk to it. Beautiful, I love you, all these gorgeous words. He spoke beautiful things to it. The other container of water, hate, negativity. He said the most horrific things that you can say to that water. He then froze the water and he put it under a microscope. The water that he spoke love to had these beautiful, beautiful snowflake-like transformations. It was gorgeous under the microscope. And the water he spoke negatively to had these awful malformations. They were dark and nasty and brown. So why am I telling you about this study? The human body is almost 95% water. So when you're giving yourself bad self-talk and you're angry and you're negative and you're hate-filled, what do you think you're doing to the water cells in your body? And what are those water cells doing to your body?
Uh, that's the best explanation I've ever heard of what negative energy does to you health
It
wise.
makes you sick. It is literally toxic. Listen, I'm all about the how. You can say anger is toxic. Okay, how? I want to know how. But over the years, you're just told these things. You must forgive and forget. Anger is toxic. We're just kind of told these things, but nobody teaches us how. Let's take let's take an unforgivable. See, my system is going to start you with on that 10 scale with 10 being awful and 1 being easy. I'm starting you off with the easy ones. And there's worksheets and other stuff in the book, and the audio book is available, blah, blah, blah. But I'm going to start you with the easy ones. So I want you to make a list of all the people places and things that I'm going to explain that you think you need to forgive, and then I want you to rate them from 1 to 10, and you can have 5 4s if you want to. I don't care. You could skip a number. It's all the same to me, whatever you want to do. But I want you to start with the number ones. And it's a very simple mantra in my book, and it forgives the person and the energy around the person. It's super simple. You don't have to dance around the room. You don't have to burn incense unless that's what you're into. You don't have to hold a crystal unless you really like crystals. I think they're pretty, but it's a very simple thing. There's no special sauce to it. But when it comes to the number 10s, they're a bear. And sometimes yourself is a number 10. So I want you to pick apart the memory. You might not be able to forgive the person, especially if it was horrific and it was unforgivable. There are truly unforgivable acts and people in the world that I don't know anybody that can forgive these things. And that's fine. But you're still being held a prisoner by the anger. So pick apart the memory. Everything in our world has energy around it. So let's take my own childhood bullies. Let's say you're driving down the road and you pass your elementary school where you were bullied, like I was. And by the time you get to work, you're kind of in a bad mood. And you don't know why. Nope, you've had a perfectly decent morning, but you're in a bad mood. It's because the memories are there and they're kind of in the back of your mind, like a movie that's playing that you don't know is there. So, how do you get rid of it? I want you to pick apart the memory. I want you to forgive the school, the building, and the energy around the building. I'm actually not kidding. Forgive the table, the desk, the chair, the playground. Forgive the people that stood around while they watched you get bullied and the energy around all these people. Forgive yourself, the energy around yourself. I still haven't forgiven the bully, but I'm slowly picking apart the rest of the memory. Now, you're not going to get a number 10 person down to a 1 overnight. Ain't going to happen, people. Not going to happen. This is a journey. This is a marathon. This is not a sprint. It's going to take a minute. My number 10s, and I had a couple, everybody does. And it took me, I have to say, weeks and weeks and weeks to get that 10 down to a forgivable level, which is like between a 1 and a 4. It took a very long time. And I have the method. I want you to do it every night before bed because your body heals itself before bed. So I drink my own Kool-Aid. God, I've got to stop saying that. Kool-Aid. Don't Google that. It's a horrible reference. I should really stop
And
saying it.
I
It's
know
awful.
when you really think about what that's referencing, it is actually a terrible reference when you really, for those of us
It's
who
awful.
actually really know what
Please
it
don't
was
Google it.
about.
And the minute I say please don't Google it, you know everybody's going to Google it to find
Everybody's
out what it
Googling it.
was. They're all going to find out. I do my own stuff. I work my own. If I write about it and I do an exercise, I've already done it 100 times. So I got my list together. And I thought, this is going to be great. I'm going to do it before bed, and I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning, and I'm going to be like a phoenix rising from the ashes. I'm going to be a brand new person. I'm going to forgive everybody in my past all at once. Okay, it didn't really work out that way. Sad to say. I did forgive many people on the list. Remember the water study I just talked about?
Mhm.
Well, when you're holding on to a lot of anger, politely said, those cells have to go someplace. And if you only do 5 to 10 at a time, which is what I recommend, your body will easily be able to manage that while you sleep. You'll probably be very tired. You might be thirsty. You might be a little off, but that's why I want you to do it before bed so your body could easily manage transmuting that anger. In my case, I spent the next 3 days in bed with what everybody thought was the stomach flu. It was not the stomach flu. My body was trying to transmute the anger. And some of you politely said might be in the bathroom, depending upon the level of toxicity of the person, place, or thing that you're trying to forgive. Don't think you ate a piece of bad fish. You didn't. It's just your body trying to get rid of all the toxins that you have inside of you. So be kind to yourself. This is a journey, and it's often not an easy one. I'm asking you to go back and relive things you probably don't want to relive. But in my defense, you only have to go back a few more times and it'll be gone forever. I can look back at my childhood, which was very toxic, and I actually can see the love that was there. I can probably come up with the bad memories if you want me to, but to be honest with you, I've forgotten most of them. I just don't remember. I remember the loved ones was there. I remember the adults that were trying to help that teenage kid who was so lost. I remember those people. And that's what I remember now. I don't remember I could, if I really wanted to, I suppose I could regurgitate some of it, but I have forgiven so many people in my past, it's just gone. It's gone.
Wow. Wow. And how long have you been doing this work?
About 20 years.
Wow.
But I only learned about the energy piece. Three of us came up with my two besties and I came up with it when we were talking one day, and it had to be 2021. But I've been teaching forgiveness for over 20 years and have been writing about it. But that one little last piece, I always kind of knew there was something missing. There was something that we weren't getting because people weren't staying forgiven no matter
Right.
what we did. And that was the piece. It was the energy. So the mantra is pretty much I completely forgive Dan. I completely forgive the energy around Dan. I completely forgive myself. I forgive the energy around myself. I forgive the energy around the entire thing. And so be it. Seriously, that's what it is.
Wow.
That's it.
And you mentioned a couple times about people, places, and things, and you touched on it a little bit
Mhm.
when you were going through your own forgiveness journey, but kind of dig into that a little bit more on the places and things specifically.
You can forgive anything. You could forgive politicians, dare I say. You could forgive the war in the Middle East. What's it going to do for the people in the Middle East? Not a darn thing. But if you're watching, you can forgive a football team. If you're watching TV or something is really pissing you off, pardon my language, you can forgive it. If you are looking, if you're thinking of selling your dining room table and you've got bad feelings about oh, this is mine. Okay, let's go. If you got this dining room table and you know you can't move it to the next house, so you want to sell it, but you don't want to sell it because it was in your family, but you have bad memories because that's where you did your homework, that's where you got lectured by your alcoholic parents. So when you look at the table, you remember the bad things. Forgive the table. Forgive the energy around the table. It's going to free your life. And then you'll be able to do whatever you want with it because you don't care. Forgive your childhood home and the energy around your home. Did you have a bad taste with a town? Let's any town USA, forgive that town and the energy around the town. Heck, I forgave 1974. Dating myself now. Why did I forgive 1974? Because it was a horrible year. That's the year I tried to commit suicide. And I did pick apart the year, but I also forgave the energy around the year. And it's freeing. So you can forgive anything. My one of my friends wrote down on her list, she just wrote Little Red Wagon. No idea why she wrote it down, had no memory of a little red wagon. But when she was creating your list, she saw herself writing Little Red Wagon. Because I want you to write your list without thought. I just want you to write it blind. So she forgave the Little Red Wagon. It obviously was from her childhood, and she was obviously mad at the damn thing. But I want you, when you're writing your list, start with the people that you grew up with in the sandbox all the way to the present day, and then rate everybody from 1 to 10. Anybody. And if there's cities, there's places, how about the office you last worked at, the job you were fired from? I'll bet you there's a bunch of things you could forgive in that job. How about your school years? How about places you visited? How about the guy on I-95 South that just cut you off? You can forgive these people. Forgive the car, forgive the person. Everything is forgivable. Everything on our planet has energy around it. If you're looking at the news and it's really irritating you, forgive it. Forgive the piece, for the person, forgive the place. It's going to free your life. But
Yeah.
please only do 10 at a time and do it before bed. I've gotten to the point where, because I've been doing this for so many years now, I really have been teaching this for 20 years. I can actually do it on the fly. But I do recognize when something really irritates me, I leave that before I go to bed, and I'll do the hard ones before I go to bed.
Yeah. Yeah. And with the news, you should probably forgive it and then stop watching it.
Yeah, I haven't watched the news in a very, very long time. My two sons tell me what I need to know because they'll call and they'll say, "Did you hear?" And it's like, "You know, I didn't. What's going on?" So
Yeah.
I'm kept abreast of it. I'm kind of trying to live in my own little bubble world at this point.
Yeah. So me as well for sure, because it can definitely that you know 30 minutes of network news can certainly create a negative energy. I mean,
Absolutely.
30 seconds of network news could can create a negative energy.
But that's also forgivable.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
forgiving yourself, ah, well, that's an even more fun conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about that, about forgiving yourself. I'd like to dig into that a little bit more.
But the good news is what I'm about to tell you is going, this is the first book of three. And book two, which I'm writing right now, is all about how to forgive yourself and how to forgive money. Money is energy, people. You can forgive it. But forgiving yourself, that's hard. Because we might have done something that is unforgivable, but the principle is the same and the exercise is the same. But instead of writing a list and rating it from 1 to 10 of other people, it's all about you this time. So I want you to write a list of memories and people you might have hurt. And then I want you to go through the list, rate them from 1 to 10. And it's all about you. You hurt this person, you hurt that person. And I literally did memories. And then I divided the list by decade. So I wrote my first list with my childhood and my teenage years in my head. And I wrote down a couple names of people I thought I hurt and some memories that really bothered me. And then I said my mantra, which I forgive the person, the energy around the person. I forgive myself, the energy around myself. I forgive the energy around the whole thing. And I picked apart each memory. I'm telling you, this takes a little time. And then I forgave the decade itself. When I thought I was done, then I forgave the decade itself. Now, as you're forgiving people, let's say it's a number seven person. After you say that mantra, and I always want you to say the mantra with your hand in your heart because the words really don't matter. It's the energy behind the words that mean the most. And I want you to check in with your body after you forgive somebody because you may not feel anything. Most people will feel something. I feel energy move right in my solar plexus, which is kind of right here in the middle of my stomach. Some people say, my son says he's a federal law enforcement officer, and he said it's ridiculous, but my shoulders felt lighter. He said that's nuts, but his shoulders literally felt lighter when he did it. And you might have thought it was a number four when you started, and you check in with your body to see if it's still a number four, and if you're feeling pain somewhere in your body. And I have a friend who said, well, it's up to a seven now. It went up.
Wow.
Why? Your brain is the most beautiful, beautiful, powerful tool, and man, it protects you. And once you do that first pass, your brain is going, okay, Dan is ready now. I can open this back closet that I've been keeping closed for a good 35 years now, and I'm going to open it up and flood him with memories that you didn't even know you had. So you just have to keep working the problem and working the memories. And then once I thought I was done with my teenage years, I moved into my 20s, my 30s. Yes, I'm 63. There it is. But I went through all the decades and it took a lot of time. But once I went through my first list of people that I needed to that I was mad at, then I did the same exercise on myself, but this time I did it with memories.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Very
life-changing
interesting.
stuff.
Yeah. One of the other things I want to dig into a little bit is, again, when we first started talking, I think a lot of times, again, people think about forgiveness, but they don't understand that forgiveness can come without continuing that relationship.
Oh yeah.
Um, so, let's dig into that a little bit more because, again, I think a lot of times, like if a really close friend hurt you or did something, and, it's like, hey, I forgive them, and they want to still have a relationship. You're like, well, no, I forgave you, but I don't want the relationship. Like, well, I thought you forgave me. It's like, I did, but I
Forgiveness
was,
doesn't necessarily mean repair.
yeah,
Forgiveness doesn't necessarily mean I want a relationship with you. It may not be appropriate to have a relationship with this old friend. Maybe the relationship was toxic and you've identified that. Forgiveness sets you free. It
right.
doesn't do anything for the other person, but it does set you free. And it's a very powerful energy. Here's a true story that will stretch a few people's brains. I apologize for that. It won't hurt too much as I stretch your brain just a little bit. I did this exercise and I forgave a level one person I grew up with in high school. Didn't even remember what I was mad at. Hadn't spoken to the person in over 30 years. This was high school. And I did this around 2020, 2019, something like that. So I forgave the person and I did my own little mantra. And I haven't talked to this person in 20, 30 years. 2 hours after I did it, and how I do it is I sat in the middle of my bed, I should probably explain, and I imagine the person standing in front of me as I knew them when it happened. Not the current adult person. I imagined this person as they were as a kid when I knew them. And then if you need to say something to this person, hey, have at it. You're alone in a room. I want you to be alone. I want you to turn your phone off. It does have an off button. It does. You can turn it off. And I know that makes people twitch a little bit, so just turn it to mute. And I don't want it to bounce. I don't want it to bounce because then it's gonna, if you don't have it on mute, it's gonna rumble and you're gonna say, "Oh, who is?" No,
Right.
turn the sound off. Tell your kids and your dogs and your significant others you need a few minutes alone. If you have to go in the bathroom and shut your door, do it. But I imagine the person was standing in front of me and I told her everything I wanted to say. And you can yell, you can scream, this is your party, you can scream if you want to. If you can't imagine the person in your mind's eye, like if can you look, can you see your childhood bedroom right now
Yes.
in your mind?
Yeah.
Can you see the color of the walls?
Yep.
That's actually clairvoyance. It doesn't mean you're going to see a ghost walk into the room. It's not a Stephen King thing. It just simply means you get messages from the other side by through visual. You see the answers. You see it in music. You see it in a billboard. You see it on in a podcast. But that's what that means. So you're imagining the person that's standing in front of you. And then once I was finished saying what I wanted to say, I said my mantra and I imagined that she walked out of the room toward the door, not the window, because I thought I don't want to send her out of the window to her death. It's just me. So I imagine that she walked out toward the hall. Right? 2 hours later, she calls me up on the phone. I am a concierge trainer by trade. That's where my field was. I trained concierge all over the world. And my concierge training immediately kicked in because my throat and my jaw dropped to the floor. I hadn't heard from her in decades. So we immediately said the things that people said, and we used the words that people were use, and we reminisced, and we forgave each other. And then I'm a curious little bear. I couldn't stand it. And I said, after all these years, why did you call me today? She said, it's the darndest thing. 2 hours ago, which was exactly when I was saying my mantra, a figurine you gave me in school flew off my shelf and landed in the middle of the room. And I saw it and thought I should give you a call.
Wow.
If the power of forgiveness, that by the way works whether you believe it or not, it's like the law of gravity. The law of gravity is going to work whether I believe it or not. I could call the law of gravity keeping the law of keeping Dan on the ground. It doesn't care. It's still going to work. It doesn't care if I believe it or not. It's going to work. If the law of forgiveness has the power to move a figurine 600 miles away for a level one person, imagine what it's going to do when you get to the higher numbers. Imagine how that's going to change the water molecules in your body. Imagine what it's going to do to your life.
Yeah. That's
This is
incredible.
life changing. But another thing it's going to do for you is people are going to be attracted to you because it's going to draw new people into your life. But people are going to leave your life as well as you change. If they are not willing to change with you, the people you live with that love the old you, that really think the old you is great, they're going to try and sabotage it because they don't want you to change. They want their old friend back. So you're going to have some courage with, especially if it's family, because you're going to be changing and not everybody else is going to want to change with you.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
may lose some family, you might lose some friends and family along the way. But the good news is you're going to find new ones who are attracted to you.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a very important component to understand with it. as
Yeah,
well.
you're going to lose people and it's going to hurt.
Yeah.
You might have
Yeah.
to add them to the list once they leave. Happened to me. I speak from experience.
I love it. So, Catherine, we've talked about a lot of different things, but we're just about out of time. But before we wrap up, is there anything that we missed that you think would be important to the listeners?
Don't be scared. This is this method, even if you never get to the people you label eight, nines, and 10, this will change your life. This will allow you to become the person you were always meant to be. This is going to allow you to make more money, lose weight. It's not a magic pill. This is work. A lot of people call this shadow work, and it's painful and it's hard. But once you get to the other side, you will not be the same person you were going in, and your life is going to be 100% better. I speak from experience. So you got this.
I love it. I love it. So, Catherine, if anyone out there is interested in just reaching out to you, finding out more about what you do, looking for some coaching to get through their own forgiveness journey, how would they find you on the internet?
You can go to my website, and my first name is, thanks to my mother, is spelled a little odd. Thanks, Mom. It's katharinegiovanni.com, and it's Katharine Giovanni.com. You can also go over to Amazon. I have the audio book because I know not everybody likes to read, but the audio book, the ebook, and the paperback are all available on Amazon. It's called The Ultimate Path to Forgiveness: Unlocking Your Power.
Excellent. And I'll make sure all those links get in the show notes as well. So people don't have to run and write that down. They'll just be able to click on it and be able to find you for sure. So,
Right?
Catherine, that brings us to our final question. As you know, the subtitle of the podcast is Many Little People in Many Little Places, which comes from the opening lyrics of a Michael Franti song, Gloria, which go, when many little people in many little places do many little things and the whole world changes. What's one of the little things that Catherine does on a daily basis to make the world a little bit better place?
Great song. Um, for the last 40 years, my mantra and my family's mantra is we try and leave people better than we find them. And I mean everybody. The checkout person in the grocery store, the person in the hospital. I try and leave people better than if I see a little piece of paper or garbage on the floor, I'll pick it up. If I see somebody that needs a smile, I'll randomly compliment them on something and engage them. So I legitimately try to leave people better than I find them.
Love that. That's a great, great answer. Catherine, this is an amazing conversation. Really appreciate you taking the time to sit down and talk with me. And for those out there listening, be sure to check out my other podcasts and blogs at journeymymotherson.com. Or there, check out our Pay It Forward program where you can purchase a copy of one of my books, and Sandy and I will donate it to somebody along our travels. And again, Catherine, thank you so much for taking the time. This is a great conversation.
Thanks so much for having me. It was fun.
You bet.